The coffee pot hissed as Marlene Foster looked up and froze. A man in worn black leather had just pushed open her diner's door. The bell above the door gave its usual friendly jingle, but no one smiled. She had whispered her morning ritual only minutes earlier, flipping the open sign her father painted long ago. Let's see who fate sends today. This wasn't what she'd expected. Outside, frost still clung to windshields, and inside, the heat from the kitchen mingled with the scent of bacon and sweet apple butter. Marlene wiped her hands on her apron and straightened. She'd been through harder mornings than this. The man stood still, tall and broad-shouldered, helmet under one arm. His jacket was worn at the seams, and his beard grayed like steel wool. A murmur ran through the diner. Eloise Trammell, seated by the window with her crossword, leaned toward Jenny and whispered, "Hell's Angel." Marlene saw the tension ripple like heat off pavement. Jenny backed into the kitchen. The man walked to the farthest stool, slow but deliberate. Marlene poured a cup of coffee and brought it over. Up close, she noticed the hospital band half hidden beneath his sleeve and the shake in his large hand as he accepted the mug. "Thanks," he said, voice low. "Just passing through, visiting my daughter in Riverside. She's hanging on." Marlene nodded, her tone steady. "Black coffee, toast, no judgment," she said, placing the order slip on the counter. The bell jingled again. 2 patrol cars pulled up. Beau's shoulders stiffened. Deputy Griggs leaned over the counter and smirked. "You got ID, friend? Or should we just assume the worst?" Beau looked up from his coffee without moving. Marlene, halfway to the register with a tray of cinnamon rolls, caught the tone instantly. She remembered Beau's voice earlier, quiet and raw. She's still hanging on. That daughter, who no one in this room had seen, was the true heart of the story. But no one here seemed to care. The diner had filled fast. Brunch regulars sat in worn booths beneath the gray light pressing through frosted windows. The radio hummed soft gospel. Plates clinked. Mrs. Talley, parked near the counter, leaned toward a friend. "That jacket's got trouble stitched into it," she murmured, louder than she needed to. Beau didn't flinch. Slowly, he pulled his wallet from the inner pocket of his jacket and handed over his license. "Just coffee and toast," he said. "Didn't ask for anything more." Griggs held the card too long, then chuckled. "Your daddy'd be ashamed of this, Marlene." He dropped the license onto the counter like an accusation. Marlene stepped forward, wiping her hands on her apron. "He's done nothing wrong," she said, "and I won't have my customers harassed." Officer Bell shifted uncomfortably beside Griggs, glancing toward the kitchen. "You're making enemies," he muttered, not to anyone in particular. Marlene stood taller. "This is my diner. I serve everyone with respect, or I don't serve at all." Beau reached into his pocket and slid a few bills across the counter. "Appreciate it," he said, starting to rise. Marlene placed her hand gently on the money. "No charge. Not today." Marlene blinked at the red spray paint across her window. No biker lovers in Redwood. She stood on the sidewalk in her coat, rag in hand, the cold seeping through the seams. The paint was fresh, still sticky under her glove. Griggs' words from the day before echoed, unwelcome. "This town remembers which side you're on." Apparently they did. Inside, the diner felt colder than usual. The clock ticked too loudly, and the coffee maker's gurgle sounded like a leaky faucet. No one had come in during the first hour. Jenny swept near the door in slow circles, eyes flicking toward the street. Eloise finally arrived, as she always did on Tuesdays. She took her usual booth, stared at her crossword, and didn't say a word. When her tuna sandwich came, she ate half, left $2, and walked out without a glance. Jenny hesitated near the pie display. "Should we close early?" she asked softly. Marlene shook her head. "If I close now, they've won." The phone rang behind the counter, startling them both. Marlene picked up, recognizing the number. Beau's voice came through, quiet but lighter somehow. "Ellie smiled today. Said she likes your name." Marlene rested her hand on the counter. She's got good taste. A knock at the window drew her attention. The newspaper boy stood outside, holding the latest edition. "Folks are saying," he said with a shrug, "your pie's cursed now." Marlene waited until he left, then lit a candle beneath her father's photo near the register. "Hope I didn't let you down, Frank." Far off, engines, faint at first, then growing. Marlene looks up, heart racing. The rumble started as a low growl. By the time Marlene opened the door, it was thunder rolling down Main Street. She stepped outside, dish towel still over her shoulder, as headlights cut through the late afternoon fog. Bikers rolled in 2 by 2, their jackets marked with patches, their helmets hung from handlebars like pendants. Yesterday's silence had been broken. Where there had been graffiti, there was now chrome and leather, gleaming in the weak gold light of sunset. Bo stepped off the first bike, removed his helmet, and gave her a nod. "Didn't want you to feel alone." Before she could answer, the street filled. Bikes lined the sidewalk and overflowed into the lot across the road. Locals emerged from porches, silent, watching. Jenny rushed out from the back. "There's 20 people at the counter," she squeaked, eyes wide. Duke Hayes, tall and steady, approached with a presence that quieted even the engines. He shook Marlene's hand gently. "You respected one of ours," he said, "so now we're here to respect you." Inside, orders poured in. Coffee, toast, chili. Jenny scrawled receipts faster than she could breathe. Bo helped carry mugs. Someone played a harmonica out front. Laughter rose up like steam. Loretta took a seat across from Eloise, her voice soft. "Cold day, huh?" Eloise didn't respond at first. Then she glanced down at Loretta's gloves, homespun, pale blue, simple. "You knit these?" she asked, barely above a whisper. Loretta smiles. "I do." It wasn't the turkey or the pie, but that night something truly American was being served. Understanding. Outside the diner, strings of white lights stretched between poles, swaying gently with the breeze. Folding tables lined the sidewalk, quilt blankets draped across laps, and paper cups of warm cider steamed in grateful hands. What had begun as tension had softened, unraveled like old thread into something tender. Eloise sat beside Loretta, her posture no longer stiff. They spoke of lost husbands, arthritis, and the peculiar quiet that settles in a house when you're the last one left. Loretta handed Eloise a second pair of gloves, this time in soft rose. "I knit when my hands ache," she said. "It helps." Not far off, Mr. Halpern recited verses from his notebook to a local English teacher. He was retired now, wrote only on weekends, but still believed poetry could keep a soul upright. Laughter rose from their corner like birds startled into the air. Near the bikes, children from the neighborhood giggled as riders handed out cocoa and let them honk horns, take photos, and trace the flame decals with mittened fingers. The line between stranger and neighbor had begun to blur. Bo stepped aside to answer a call. When he returned, he pulled Marlene gently to the side. "Ellie says hi," he said, voice catching. "She wants to know if you'll be open for Christmas. She wants to meet you." Eloise stood and tapped her cider cup with a fork. "To kindness, especially when it's not easy." The whole lot cheered. Griggs entered quietly. Removes hat. "Could I get a slice of pecan pie, if you've got any left?" On Thanksgiving morning, Marlene found a black leather vest folded on her doorstep, just beside a steaming pie tin. She crouched down, fingers brushing the worn patches stitched carefully into the back. Friends of the Road, Marlene's chapter. The lettering was bold, white against black. Tucked beneath the flap was a note in tidy, unfamiliar handwriting. "Ellie wants to meet the woman who reminded her dad what hope feels like." The diner was still quiet, but warm with the scent of nutmeg and sausage. Sunlight spilled in gold through the front window, glinting off the pie tin. Marlene stepped inside, vest in hand, and placed it gently behind the counter. Bo arrived just after 7, his face drawn but softer. "She held food down this morning," he said. "First time in weeks." Marlene didn't say anything, just nodded, smiled, and squeezed his hand. Eloise appeared a few minutes later, pie carrier in tow. "Figured you'd need help with crusts today." Loretta followed, balancing 2 jugs of cider and a tray of buttered rolls. Jenny flipped the open sign with an exaggerated flourish. "Let's do this," she said, laughter dancing in her voice. One by one, locals trickled in, some with casseroles, others with sheepish smiles and quiet apologies. Plates passed, names exchanged, and the weight that had hung over the diner days ago felt like a bad dream, now softened by cinnamon and coffee. Marlene took the vest and hung it beside her father's old apron. Side by side, that feels right. The bell jingles. A young boy walks in, says shyly, "My grandma says your pie saved this town." On a quiet Thanksgiving morning, kindness was folded into a leather vest and hung beside an old apron, 2 lives stitched together by grace. In standing up for a stranger, Marlene reminded an entire town that dignity doesn't wear a uniform and hope doesn't always ride in quietly. When we choose compassion over comfort, judgment gives way to connection. Like a porch light left on for a weary traveler, even a small act of warmth can guide someone home. If this story touched something in you, perhaps today is the day to pass that feeling forward to someone who might just need it most.